I mean, we're finally here after 8 weeks. It's been 40 hours.
No,
Seems, yeah,
it's been less.
it's like 2 days, but it's been quite intense, and doing a lot of work. And overall, we've been doing, we started with understanding what's product management. Most of you were new in this sector, which was a quite interesting combination of experiences, because we all shared our perception about the role, which is super enriching. We went and understood what's a hypothesis. We were spending 4 lectures and more offline into user mapping, MVP delivery, a lot of doubts that we were struggling. And then we were also sharing our personal struggles, which was powerful. And yeah, we even touched SQL, which was quite enriching and technical. And we finished with something that I really liked, the bonus of failures, the other day, and talking about failures, which I think we don't talk enough about failures nowadays, and that makes the difference. And you need to fail to succeed, and to normalize that, right? And to feel that it's normal, that it can happen, and how to cope with that, and not to feel with social media that you are, you know, the one that is left out because you're not succeeding, right? So I wrote brief words to thank you girls, because I didn't want to forget about everything that I wanted to say. And I know that we are all very excited to share presentations. So I wanted to thank you. And honestly, when I say thank you, you have to realize that it's not just for today, it's for actually letting me into your lives, everyone, and letting me feel like part of your daily life struggles, thoughts. When we finished work, we were sharing everything, all the shit that was going on, the crap, like, oh my God, how can I deal with that? And we created all this community, right? And we've built up, I was telling Pascal the other day, an everlasting community of amazing women who I personally strongly admire and respect. And I truly believe that we are here to share everything that goes on in the future. We are friends, we are a community, and this is just the beginning. And I've been noticing that in our lectures, that we were helping each other, not only there to learn, you know, the theory, we were also practicing community. And coming from different backgrounds in this cohort has been powerful. And also the fact that we are located in different parts of the world, it makes it powerful. Because when I start every lecture and I ask you, how was the weekend, right? I really mean the question, because we all share a different experience, a different weekend, different struggles, different weather. So it's powerful, because thanks to CodeOp, we've been able to connect from different parts of the world, different lives. And for sure, it would have been impossible to be all together at the same time, sharing. So just to finish this speech, I found a quote that I really liked, because I think it really applies to how we are and how I know you already. And it says, it's from Maya Angelou, and it says, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. And I really feel it's something that we really connect with that, because as everything, you know, we struggle. The COVID has been challenging for everyone. We've changed. But as long as we learn from that and we fly and we don't hit bottom and we don't get reduced, it's worth it. So I wanted to share that with you girls, and I'm really, really happy to be able to be here and for the friendship that we have in the future.
Thank you. That was really sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Romina. We couldn't have created a community if you didn't create the enabling environment. So thank you for allowing us to be our authentic selves and for all the support you've given us, especially for me during the last 2 weeks.
I know. But you've done great. So we've met also your family.
Oh yes, my family and my extended family, all the babies that I'm babysitting during the class is happening.
And we know that your mom has the best Wi-Fi in Kenya.
She does. She does.
So, and even Katrina, like I asked Naima to send us her like exact location in the map so we can actually imagine the area, because she was always explaining it's raining and I'm living outside Kenya, and we were like, how is it there, right? Because it's quite different for sure from Washington or Spain. It was funny to be there for a moment.
Totally. I mean, sometimes some of our class sizes are 15 students from like Tokyo to San Francisco. I mean, really a mix of everyone joining. And I think that's a special space to be in. No, I mean, we're a coding school for women, and yet many of our students have said this is the most diverse space they've been in, right? Because we're not a monolith, as it turns out. And so I think it just adds a layer to the rich experience, and can help with the intensity of the curriculum. These are boot camps, right? It's intense learning experiences. And, you know, it's a lot to take in. And in this course specifically, often people are working. So that, you know, you have families, you have folks that you're caring for. It's a lot. Even though it's a 40-hour boot camp, I mean, our product management curriculum is loaded with so much information. So I hope you're all feeling very proud, and I'm excited to see the presentations.
Okay, girls, so are you going to make this difficult or easy? That's the question. Who wants to be first?
I can start because right now my Wi-Fi is working. I like the way everybody's just like, yay!
Yay!
I can start because my Wi-Fi is working. So I'd rather do it now before it starts acting up. So I'm going to share my screen very quickly.
Great.
Share. I'm just going to minimize that and then present. Okay. So my name is Naima Mungai, and I am the program manager for the Africa Women Journalism Project. And I am super happy to be here to present what would be our funders pitch, what would be funding to our to potential funders. And I think I've explained this to the people in the room. So for those who are not going to, who will watch this, who haven't interacted with me before, one of the major challenges about this particular project for me was that this is not your traditional such a traditional sort of business model. This is something that works within the nonprofit world. And it has made me realize the gaps that exist and why we seem to sort of be doing the same thing over and over again without changing. So I'm really excited to share with you what I've been able to work on so far vis-a-vis my project. So where are African women in the media? Out of all newspapers and newsrooms and, you know, sort of all the newspapers, 24% of those presenting and writing the news are women. 38% in radio are women, and 36% in television are women. This is on a continent where there's almost 50-50% distribution between men and women, and that creates a problem. Now, female voices in journalism are important because women are actors of change. women ensure that voice is given to stories that are normally silenced. This was written by Alia Ibrahim, who set up a Turkish news site dedicated to improving the voices of women. Now, when we think about women, and there's a saying that if you educate a woman, you educate a whole community. The same thing applies to the kind of stories that are being written, who's being talked about, who's writing them. And because women normally within those, even within that 24%, they will never cover any actual serious topics. They will cover lifestyle, they will cover fashion, and then they will only be brought in to discuss things like periods and menstrual health and breast cancer, forgetting that all other things that pertain to the economic growth of women on the continent and their welfare and their rights depends on more than just these things. Women's voices in education are important. What kind of education is there? Does it allow for women, like young girls who are pregnant or not? So let me share a story very quickly. The COVID-19 pandemic happened, and everybody was very, on the continent, countries were shut down. And in Ghana, one very small group of people was affected. One of them was a woman who had fistula, obstetric fistula, and she had been waiting for her surgery for a year. And she was going to have to wait even longer. Now you can imagine dealing with fistula. She was not living in a place that had running water. She was not living in a place that had access to an indoor toilet. It was not healthy for her because she was now getting a lot of infections. What happened when one of our journalists worked on that story is that it raised that voice. It made people realize that it's not just people who have COVID that are suffering. Our entire health systems was stopped because of COVID. We would make a joke and say that in Africa, malaria, TB, AIDS, and all these other diseases, told African health ministers, it's okay, we'll be fine. Yeah, we'll let you finish dealing with COVID and then we'll come back. We'll come back then. And so stories like those were able to put forth a different viewpoint. So that is our why. We believe that by supporting journalists in Africa, female ones especially, with mentorship, training, and grants, will result in better and more nuanced evidence-based journalism, in public service journalism, and that's journalism that covers issues of human rights, the commons, underreported issues, and amplify the voices of minority groups on the continent. That is our why. That is our core belief. Now, on the continent, the projected rates for spending in revenue that people will get is $4.67 million US, and that's in this year. That's the projected amount for this year. And for all of these media outlets, there are three things that drag them there: the news, religion, and entertainment. On a continent where most people do not have access to, for instance, television and that kind of thing, the news becomes a very important thing, especially on radio. And so, media infrastructure is very important, and it's very lacking on the continent, and it's even worse for women. So $600 million US is spent on media development in Africa. And this is money that's put into different media initiatives on the continent to try and bridge gaps that have existed because of, one, limited potential for independent journalism. That's journalism that can call out the government, that can activate for people's rights, that can educate people. And then with global goals like SDGs, the media plays a huge role in advocacy at the grassroots level. So a lot of organizations, the first 10 years, were wondering why Africans across the continent were not paying attention to the SDGs. The reason was it wasn't being covered in the news. And why was that? Because in Africa, it's the salacious story, the political stories, because the politics is very high. So most stories and most issues will not be covered unless there's a political angle to it, which means it doesn't serve the people. And then the other thing that happened was that familiar business models in Africa, for instance, buying newspapers, which is what people would do, have collapsed in the last decade with more access to free news online. And this has been pushed by social media sites such as Facebook, which I think in Kenya, for instance, has, out of a country of 45 million, has a viewership, has a membership of around 15 million. So that's almost, three quarters of, almost a third of the population, sorry. So moving on. But this should be a good thing. There's 600 million, coming in. So where's the problem with this 600? Where is our problem? So most initiatives are supply driven. So in other words, they meet the needs of the funder. So you would get a CodeOp who wants to, for instance, make sure that, people are reading about, learning about tech and that kind of thing. And they have goals and KPIs that they have to meet for their funders, for the people and the organizations giving them money. And so what will happen is that CodeOp will put out a call and say, we want people who can do this. And then they come in and they just do that thing and hit those things without thinking about whether or not what they're providing meets the needs of the local community and the local journalists in the space. These interventions are ad hoc, which means, like I said, they just come, from nowhere, and they lack coordination. So you can actually find on the continent, 10 initiatives that are doing the same thing, and you're looking at the same group of people. Most funds are output focused and are generally siloed. Like I said, same thing. So it's how many stories are you going to produce? How many people are going to see the stories? So there's nothing that adds value. And when we did some research a couple of years ago, before we decided to concentrate fully on this, we realized that a lot of the journalists were saying they did not like joining most of these initiatives because they felt like they were just there to help the person tick a box. The fellowship ended and they had nothing for themselves. And finally, most initiatives are a one-size-fits-all design on a continent that has 54 different countries. And this is, 54 different countries divided into 5 different regions: South Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa and Western Africa, Central Africa, and North Africa. So, even in Eastern Africa, our media landscape is very different from the media landscape in Tanzania, is very different from the media landscape in Uganda. So anything that is one size fits all has problems because if you design for Kenya, Ugandan journalists won't be able to meet what it is that you want to do, which then limits your scope and reach. So what is our process to tackle this? So one of the first things that we do is that we research the media needs in all the key markets. And these are markets that have, like I said, for instance, especially South Africa is pretty much covered. So Central, East, and West Africa. Those are our main things. The next thing that we do is we identify organizations funding media initiatives. And these are people who have, they always put out calls and grants. We've actually started being called in for planning meetings when they're planning for their funding for the next 5 years to figure out what is the best way to do it. And then we design programs that meet both the journalists and the funders' objectives. In this case, journalists are going to join this because they're getting something financially out of it. They're able to build up their portfolio so that they can grow and get better jobs. And we've actually had that happen quite a bit. And the organizations want to strengthen maybe civic voices. They want to strengthen citizen journalism. They want to strengthen whatever it is that they want to do. We make sure that our programs meet those things in the middle. And then we coordinate and run the programs with constant review. And this is remarkably important because the current model is that these organizations will throw out information in the sense that they will just give grants, and you have very large grants being given to individuals, and then the quality of stories that comes in is very poor, so it doesn't match it. So one of the things that has been happening is that there's now a shift in changing in where can we get the most. Is it advocacy that we want? How are we going to measure these things? And once we have all of that, we deliver results. That is one of the things that we make sure we do. It's the only thing we make sure we do. So our business model has 2 sections. So we have a journalist who's the user and the customer who's the CSOs. So the customer buys, or pays for a service that the journalist then uses. And we're talking about women ages 25 to 35. Those older than 35 tend to be at very advanced stages in their career. They're interested in women's rights on the continent. They could be freelance or with a newsroom. And that's very important because from the last initiative that we ran, 60% of our community members were freelancers. They must live in an African country. You can't be an African living in Denmark. You have to be an African. You have to have basic literacy skills. That means, you can use Google, you know how to use Zoom, just basic things. But if that is the one thing someone is missing, we can upskill them. They have to have access to the internet. And in addition to whatever other languages they have to be able to speak in English. So for the JSOs, which is a term that I created during this course, which is the journalism support organizations and the civil service organizations. These are organizations with a proven track record of supporting journalism. And especially those who, especially for the CSOs, they tend to pay journalists to write stories covering their issues. And we're trying to get them to move into a position where instead of paying journalists, put a fellowship in place, educate them about the issues, and figure it out. They have to have clear and sustainable goals. We don't want people who are going to be coming in for 1 year and then that's our budget and that's it and let's move on. We're very key on something that has sort of like a 5-year plan or 3-year plan where you start with a journalist and then with their editors and then do something within the newsroom that changes the value. And they could be international or regional. And this is important because you have organizations like the African Union who are doing a lot of things in Africa, and then the counter-trafficking, for instance, counter-trafficking organizations that exist, UNICEF Africa, UNFPA Africa. They could be international or local. So do we have any competitors? So we have, basically there's other journalism training outfits like ours, and they have just started coming up. The ways in which we are different from them is, when I introduce you to the team, we take a holistic approach. It's not just about the stories, it is about enriching and making sure and inspiring these journalists, making sure they have mentorship, upskilling them so that a journalist who came in and all they could do was write a story can then be able to analyze their own data, make their own visualizations. And that takes time, and we take the time to do it. And then there's the newsrooms, because some people feel it is better to fund the newsrooms directly. However, what we've realized is a lot of those funds, because newsrooms are for profit, a lot of those funds do not make it to the journalists who actually need them. They do not pay for, programs and tech and tools that they need to be able to tell their stories. And because that's not their core business, that your particular program will not be their core business. Their core business is to make money. A lot of them are for profit, so their core business is to make money. So that is the way in which we move beyond them. And then you have the JSOs, then the international NGOs themselves, and this group can decide to run their own initiative, their own, and run it themselves. The problem that usually comes is in the quality of the outputs and the quality of what is being produced, because again, that is not their core business. Because we design programs, and once we're done with them, we learn, we keep make sure we're iterating to make things a lot better. So this is our team. Catherine Gisheru, who's the project director, is a veteran journalist of over 40 years. She was the first African Kenyan Black woman editor in a major newsroom in Africa and East Africa. And then there's myself, who's a program manager. Catherine is an ICFJ Knight Fellow. And behind us, we do have the might of the International Center for Journalists, who help us plan and give voice to all our initiatives and the stories that we work on. Catherine is a really good trainer. She has amazing mentorship abilities. She's an amazing editor. And she is also a very, very good fundraising person to have. She's on the board of the Reuters Foundation, the Aga Khan University, and MDIF, the Media Development Initiative Fund. And then you have myself. I'm the program manager. My work is to figure out how to design the different programs, what workflows are needed, budgeting, managing communications and social media initiatives and, you know, all of that stuff. I call myself the Girl Friday of the group. And then there's Ezra, who is our information designer, and he takes the visualizations and the data created by Sharon, who is our data analyst, and turns them into something that people can actually see and appreciate. And we have Sharon, who is our data analyst. She is an accomplished data analyst and data scientist. It's a credit to the team. And then finally, we have Dennis Otieno, who is our technologist, and he's responsible for maintaining the site, upkeeping the site, and as we're moving forward, designing sort of a lot of the resources that we're going to be able to share with the rest of our community. And I think I have gotten to the end of what I was able to do, so thank you for your time. And again, thank you very much, CodeOp, and thank you so much to the rest of the class. I think this has really opened up my mind, and I think it will change how nonprofits, especially ours, arranges itself and makes sure that we're able to plan for sustainability. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Naima. I think it's outstanding, your presentation. So congrats. It's a great work, as you know. And I don't know if you girls have any questions. The audience.
That was just too good. I think we're done here. So well for all of us. So just gonna put that out there.
Thank you so much, Pascal.
I have some questions and comments. Well done. Well done. Yes. Very interesting project. You're an excellent speaker, good pace, very articulate, and that goes a long way when you're pitching to investors. So good job there. And obviously the problem that you're addressing is close to our hearts. When you're talking about the problem, you have first this structural issue, right? This gender disparity. But then as you dig a little bit deeper, in the case of CodeOp, for example, you have code schools, but code schools are not addressing diversity and inclusion issues, right? So we can critique even further. So that can be hard to communicate really succinctly. You know what I mean? And actually, so you started with these numbers about the disparity, right, in journalism, which is important. And then a few slides later, you got into the other problems. I would just hit it all in one slide at the very beginning. This is the problem, no?
All right.
And then you got into your process. And at that point, I was a little confused. And I said, is your process the product? What actually is the product? Is it a platform? So there I had some questions, and I felt like at the start, I just wanted kind of like a tagline of what it is that you're doing, it can help. I mean, it's a bit cliche, but I also understand how it can be like a teaser that sets some context into where we're going, right? And typically listeners like that. What else? And so the business model, from what I understand, is B2B, B2C. No, it's a hybrid model. So you're generating revenue from the actual customers as well as the journalist in this case.
No, when we don't generate revenue from the journalists, they don't pay for it. So it's the really customer is the organizations.
Okay. And then of course I'm a numbers person. So I would have liked to have seen some breakdown of I don't know, your gross margin, something really going into the number scope.
Yeah, the numbers. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What else did I want to say? It seems like a super strong team, and that goes a long way also. Sometimes with competitors, what can help again with visualization.
Yes.
Rather than just like listing it out, you can pick like a few variables and show really how you differentiate from others.
Yes, I was going to do that. And then because I had to share this with the project director, And she was a little bit, because this is going to be out there for people to see, potential students, and I will be sharing sort of the link with hopefully the ICFJ teams so that they can see it and also give me their feedback on where we think we can add value to it. And some of them especially are people we've worked for before, build up their programs, and then realized we were not working well together and moved on. So I felt for this particular case to be a little bit sensitive to that specific issue.
Sure. But other than that, really great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just to follow what Katrina was mentioning. I really think it has been a great storytelling as we were learning in this course, the storytelling more than selling the service itself, right? It's the story behind it. And I think that was great. I think it's very structured as always. Also in your elevator pitch, we mentioned that. And I really like the product market fit, the amount of time you spend in identifying the substantial problem, because the solution is easy once you identify the problem, right? So I really like that, because from a product perspective, when you want to build an MVP, the risk depends on how much research you've done. Instead of concluding what you would like to make as a product, you first ask the market, right? So
yeah,
that's great.
Thank you. I know I might want to present to you again because the financial modeling is something that I'm researching properly. I didn't want to put something in that I haven't figured out sort of what financial models exist in the NGO world. So I know I will be reaching out to the community again and saying, I want to do this again. Can you know me, I like second tries.
Absolutely. We have an iterative process, right? This
Yes.
helps us. We can only strive for perfection. We'll never be there. One last thing I was just remembering, would be interesting to know sort of what your KPIs are, how
Okay.
you would assess whether or not you're doing a good job. No, what is important to you? Is it your gross margin? Is it revenue? Is it impact, right? And then a lot of those KPIs are also going to be dependent on the type of funding you want to get. Is it from an impact investor? Is it from a public fund? Is it from a business angel? So I would also include something about this.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Naima.
Thank you.
Now you can relax.
That's why I wanted to go fast.
You set the bar high.
I knew the whole internet thing was a joke. I feel like this entire 8 weeks she's been planning this, and now all of a sudden,
all my kids are out of my house. Like they're the only device that is on the internet right now on the Wi-Fi network is this one. Like that's what I've done. Like they've gone to my friend's house. I've kicked them out. I was like, yeah, that's what I've done.
Well, who wants to go next, girls? They were as pretending to write something. Anna is looking on the other side.
Guys, you're gonna do well. Like I know you.
Everyone is different. Every product is different.
Yeah, I don't mind going next.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anna.
Yay.
Let me one moment. So yes, okay. Wait, because no, this no. This one. Okay. So can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ana, and I'm from Spain. So today, before I introduce my project, I would like to talk about some curiosities about what I'm going to introduce. So today I'm going to talk about Vespa and scooter motorcycles. So to introduce Vespa, just some not important, but something interesting is that, for example, Vespa, this kind of motorcycle, it is the best selling in history all over the world with 20 million units. So it is a quite important record. Then in Spain, there is a Guinness World Record where there were 17 people at the same time on a Vespa. You can see there the picture in the middle. And then the last thing is Vespa is an Italian motorcycle, and the designer is Ascanio. And actually, when he designed this kind of motorcycle, he hated motorcycles. So at the beginning, not everybody was sure about this Vespa. So I'm going to talk about this. This is Turismo en Vespa, turismoenvespa.com. Why this name? So I come from the tourism sector. I was a bachelor's degree in tourism. And then 10 years ago, I inherited a Vespa from my dad. So I thought it was a good time or a nice time to link tourism plus Vespa, plus this kind of motorcycle. So the first thing or the first problems I realized in this world is that we have plenty of social networks, a lot of channels, a lot of different websites, but it is difficult to find a place where to meet other Vespa riders or other scooter riders to talk, to share events, to meet people in different routes. So it was difficult to find in one place. Then it is true that there are a lot of websites or blogs, but just talking about routes, not about events or news, for example. And then I found that it is a quite static or boring content. So what I pretend to offer with this platform, with this turismoenvespa.com. So it is just one platform where you can find a lot of information or a lot of content like news, like events, routes, business directory, or what to do with an old Vespa if you want to restore. Then in all Spain and also internationally, we have a lot of Vespa clubs, which it means that if you join, it's like a paddle club or tennis club. So I can promote these Vespa clubs, new routes, and also another way to do tourism. This is called slow tourism. Because as you know, when you ride this kind of motorcycle, not a big motorcycle, you need to take small routes, you need to stop quite frequently. So we offer the chance to check new routes, where to go with your Vespa, not with a BMW. And then something news in order to avoid that static or boring content is that the user can create new content or can create or can upload images, pictures, events of their Vespa clubs. So it will be much more dynamic. So, well, as I said, it's a platform and basically for Vespa and Lambretta owners, although other scooter riders are more than welcomed. And it will be free with a specific area for premium memberships with, well, discounts, extra content, raffles, or specific videos, for example, for specific routes. So, of course, we are in all the kind of social networks, also Telegram, that I forgot to put the logo. And something that we also offer in our platform in Turismo en Vespa, it is a weekly YouTube program that we make interviews to different important people who can be someone important for this kind of Vespa riders. So for example, someone who went around the world by Vespa, or someone who riding a Vespa in 15 days arrived to the North Cape. So this kind of interesting stories that nowadays, if you don't go to YouTube and search it one by one, you won't find it. What else we can offer? So, well, our main revenue resources will be those premium memberships with discount offers and raffles. Of course, they will be paying a membership. And through patreon.com, we will be sending, well, these discounts, offers, specific like routes or draws or news. And then other like partnerships that they want to publish or that they would like to advertise in our platforms. Then, for example, our target market, as I said, it's addressed to Vespa, Lambretta, or general scooter riders, generally males between 30 and 85 years old, although, of course, females are more than welcomed, but it is much more a reduced percentage. For the instance, it is addressed for the Spanish market because I am not able, not yet, to translate the platform into English or other languages. And it is our most valued customers are Vespa owners with new or restored ones, because normally who has a Vespa, a new Vespa, they already have a previous one, an old Vespa. Then, well, our basic competitors are these three, mujeresenruta.com, Motoviajeros, and pruebaderuta.com. Some, differences that we have studied. It is that, for example, mujeresenruta.com, they have an important financial support. Motoviajeros, they are very established in this market, so they have much more followers in the social networks. And then pruebaderuta.com, they have opened their website to the international market, so they arrive to much more people. What can we offer different from our competitors? So basically, our partnerships will be exclusively from the sectors. That it means that we won't allow to advertise like cameras, or we won't allow to advertise clothing, for example. Then something that people really enjoyed, it is that, well, Turismo and Vespa is a big family, but at the same time, people knows who is behind the screen. I am Anna, and my colleague that I will introduce later. And then, as I mentioned, that the platform is dynamic and users can create content moderated by the administrators, but they can contribute, so they will feel that Turismo and Vespa, it belongs also to them. And finally, how does it work? So, well, as I said, it's a platform and app mobile, easy to install in all systems, iOS, Android, Firefox, or Windows, because it is a mobile responsive. So you just write in the in Internet or Explorer turismoenvespa.com, and it will appear basically already this appearance, as you can see in the picture. And then, for example, it will appear how to install already a logo, an icon in your mobile directly. And who is behind Turismo and Vespa? So, well, as I said, my name is Anna. I am the product manager, and my colleague, Jorge, he is the manager. And of course, well, he's the manager because he's older than me, so he has a little bit more experience. So, well, thank you very much. for your attention, your time. This is Turismo en Vespa, and you are more than welcome to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for your great work. Super interesting.
Very good, Anna. Very good.
I was not shocked. Like, I knew you were going to hit them all.
No.
So I had some small comments to make overall. So first I would start, like, I really like the curiosity slide, the first one, because I remember we mentioned the fact of capturing attention of the audience, and I think it's very good, the practice. Then the problems and solutions and the clear value proposition. Revenue were clear also. And we also mentioned the fact of why you, the competitive advantage, right? So that makes sense. And I saw the slide, which I really enjoyed. The only thing here was about the target, for example, the market target that you mentioned, that it's generally for males more than female, for example, but I would like to know, because then a competitor is called Mujeres en Ruta, which is for women. So which is the KPI that makes that statement, to understand how did you reach to that conclusion, for example?
Basically, because when you log in the platform, the majority of the names were males, and then searching or checking like pictures related with the events that we published in the platform, in the pictures basically were appearing males. So also it is true that me as a female being behind the platform, not behind, I mean, like on the platform, it will encourage other females to join and to see that it is not just a male world, that females are also capable to ride any scooter or any motorcycle.
Yeah, because I think it's good to have data to back up the conclusions, because it can sound like from where, right? The conclusion.
Yeah. Okay.
And also in terms of partnership, I don't know if you thought about actually targeting Vespa as a partner.
Yes, yeah, well, more than Vespa, the big brand that it is Piaggio is Italian, and yes, we are in the process of evolving or engaging them with all of this.
Yeah, so that's mainly, and the last thing would be like the fact that it's only for Vespa scooters. It can be kind of exclusive for those. So at the same time, there's a lot of limitations if others want to join your product, which can bring a higher degree of risk for your business revenue, because you're targeting something that is very, very specific, very niche. So I don't know if you would be able to account for a crowd, a massive revenue strategy, right? Which is, it can work, but as we mentioned,
but yeah,
in the product life cycle, you will need to sustain your business. So maybe it could be interesting to think about including more audience or more customers, at least in the beginning. I think it would be good for your business to consider.
Yes,
everyone, right, in this sense.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm sold on the product. Sign me up. I think it's an awesome. Well, it's not an idea. So this is one of my questions. I'll get there. Anyways, let's start from the start. I like the energy you showed up with. Really clear. You were quite succinct in your delivery, and so that keeps me going. I like the icon. Nice visual and branding that you've done. I also like the fact that you're so niche, and that's fine so long as, what is that total addressable market, even if it is niche? No, So an actual number of like, how big of a market is this, to get a sense of it. And it's okay if it's not a massive market, but yeah, it depends on what you want to do with your business and how much you want to grow it.
As long as it's sustainable. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I also had never heard about slow tourism, and I like it. So you painted a really nice picture, and I saw myself there on the Vespa. I liked your product demo. So I'm unclear, is it already on the market, your app?
It is already on the market,
Okay.
but it is now, well, it was much more like a hobby than a project.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to join this, this bootcamp and this to let's see, or let's check if I can develop it and get revenue, or make it like make business. Yes.
Yeah. So I have two questions, and they can be rhetorical, or you can answer them, whatever you prefer. One question is then, what is your go-to market strategy to build your customer base? And like, what are your primary channels for acquiring new customers? No. And the second one is, if you're looking to do some funding, how much money do you want? What do you want to do with that money? And what kind of investors would you be targeting?
Yeah. Well, the channels to get users basically are based in social networks, and also with the YouTube program, because nowadays we reach 2,000 followers in YouTube. So it is not that much, but it already is quite a lot of people talking about just the Spanish market.
Yeah.
And then about funding, I haven't thought about it, but at least to cover the spending that we like to maintain, hosting, servers, an administrator to moderate the content that users are publishing, and of course, to make like a nice or a long retail or long staying business, not to appear and disappear. This was born in 2012, and for the instance, of course, we are not wasting that much money, but of course, in a few, not months, but maybe in a year, if we don't see that we don't grow, who knows what will happen.
Yeah.
So our next step, it is to think, yes, what to do if actually we want to present not these slides, of course, to fundings, make it better, or if we want to keep it like it is, just having this kind of these two revenue channels, or what to do next.
Okay. Yeah, I think nailing your marketing strategy is going to be super key for growing your base. And in the future, when you want to talk about how to, I don't know, what your investment strategy should be, I'm happy to talk with you later down the road. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for everything. And also thank you for my classmates. Yes.
Thank you, Anna. So should we proceed to the next victim? Okay, Pascal. Happy you volunteered.
Yay. Sorry, Deborah. I just want to get it out the way. Okay, everyone. This is gonna happen now. Give me a second to get it together. Not nervous at all.
Yeah, you have a great product, I'm telling you, service. Otherwise,
you will rock it, Pascal.
Yes, your product is amazing.
Yeah, so don't worry.
Hold on, I'm like already in the product before I even, hold on, sorry you guys.
I wouldn't allow you to present if we didn't see, it's meaningful.
I believe you, I really do, kinda. Okay, so let me just, okay. Can everyone see what I'm working with?
Hopping, yeah.
Yes, okay. Hi everyone, My name is Pascal, and I am the founder of Internet Hop. Pretty much like it says, internet, enter your zip code and you'll find out if you're in the hop spot. So just a little backstory. I'm originally from New York. I moved to DC for a position, and the whole process of moving was terrible. I think everyone has experience with just when it comes to moving boxes, starting in a new area that you don't really know, and just also setting up your internet. It was a horrible process, but I always thought to myself, there has to be an easier way, because usually I would just get a referral from a friend, and whatever service provider they had, that is what I pretty much went with. And I thought to myself, like I said, this process has to be easier. There has to be a way where the services I get or referred to, there should be a better way. And then I thought to myself, once I have this provider, it's not always the best. I always thought to myself, I wish I can just test run certain providers. Like, could I test run Fios or Comcast, or can I just test them out to see if their speed works with what I need? And that's when I thought to myself, I kind of wish I could just hop from one service provider to another. And that's what I was thinking about when I thought of Internet Hop. I thought of, I don't want to deal with providers and their customer service, because the customer service with internet providers are just horrible. You would be on the phone for 10 to 15 minutes on hold. There were times where I wouldn't even know if there was an outage in my area until I looked at my phone and realized there was no service. I also didn't know if there were updates or what was going on with my router, when certain things would just stop working when it came to the equipment that I had with my that I rented with my service provider. And I also hated the fact that I signed up for a contract that I just couldn't get out of without all these fees and extra added costs, that I just wanted simple service, cheap, and just provided me as much MVPs as I requested, I guess. And that's where I came up with Internet Hop. It's pretty much an automatic internet switch provider. I believe it's like the first of its kind. We will ensure that our customers will always have service. So how the process works is that you, the consumer, we will tell you the vendors that we work with, but you don't ever actually have to deal with those vendors yourself. What we plan on doing is that we would allow you to have service from different vendors by hopping from one network to another. So if Fios, for some reason, their service was slow, we would quickly hop you onto RCN. And if RCN wasn't working too well, we would quickly hop you on to Comcast. As long as our purpose was to continuously have you ensure that you have service nonstop. And this came to me because of the fact of, I realized there were areas that just didn't have the best service in the DMV area. I noticed that there were certain areas that was strictly just for Verizon Fios was better, or RCN was better. And I always felt that if I could just hop from one service provider to another, I think that would make life a lot easier for a lot of people instead of being stuck to one provider. And I think because we're in a day and age where we live in an age of many choices, cable itself is pretty much obsolete. We pretty much all have different types of streaming services. So why can't the internet providers that we have be on that same pathway? And I believe that internet should be set up in the same way, that we can have as many choices and also have as many choices as we can and work with as many vendors, because we should have these vendors working for us. And oh my gosh, sorry. That is what Internet Hop is intended to do. And the users that would be a hopper would be people just like myself, like you, families, small businesses, just anyone that wants good internet service and wants to be able to have providers that actually look out for, that actually works. I think we're at a point where after 2020, we want to ensure that all of the services that we can see that internet is vital because of what happened, last year. When it came to children being homeschooled, there were areas that service wasn't the best. When it came to working from home, and you had different partners working in the same home at the same time with different devices on, I know a lot of the service was lacking. And I think with Internet Hop, that would have definitely changed, because instead of having all of those users using one network, we would find a way to ensure that all the users can be on different networks at different times, ensuring that the service is continuous. Sorry. So our competitors and our approach is our customers are always put first. We understand the hassle when it comes to dealing with big internet service providers. So we want to make it as seamless as possible. We want to make sure you know who your vendors are, but you don't actually have to deal with it. Internet Hop would do it all for you. We would also let you know what equipment you would need, and also ensure that if the equipment is up to date, Internet Hop plans on doing continuously daily tests and runs to ensure the services that you have is ongoing. If there are any hiccups or anything like that, we would notify you right away. So you wouldn't have to wait until you woke up and figured out, oh, I don't have service, or what is going on. We would find a way to ensure that you know what was happening with your service. Okay, sorry. I think I missed a few steps. Okay. Sorry. I think I definitely missed a slide. I'm sorry. The next steps, I guess. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay, so the next steps for Internet Hop is when it comes to figuring out the steps of the operations of switching itself, because I know the infrastructure for switching from one service provider to another won't be easy. So what we plan on doing is actually going to vendors and seeing if this plan actually worked. By what I thought that it would work is if we worked with the vendors and buy in bulk and then provide the service to the consumers at a different rate. That was a lot cheaper than the individual buying it themselves with the vendor. And also determining what the legalities were, because I believe these internet service providers have different laws that might protect them, as far as determining if we can go from switching from one service provider to another in an instantaneous manner. But those were the next steps. And also creating an app and allowing the users to just go in and put in their zip code. And once they put in their zip code, they would find out if their area was a hop spot There you go. That's how you say it. And if it wasn't, we would determine, we would let you know when your area would become a hotspot in the near future. And also providing more information on what where the hotspots are and how, where the hotspots are. Oh, sorry, I'm so nervous. Yeah, I think I messed up on the slides, but my resources were from, well, my hot bunny was from iStock, and the woman on the laptop was from another iStock photo. And I didn't even mention the competitors. I'm sorry. Yeah, the competitors that I've seen on the website, on their website, was internetservices.com. And what I noticed with them was that they worked with the vendors and not the actual customers. They just told you, this is your, okay, you put in your zip code, this is the vendors that work with, and these are the plans that they have. But you still have to work with this one particular vendor. And HotSpot doesn't work that way. We provide certain vendors, and then we let you know what vendors in your area that we can work with that will allow you to get the service, that will provide you services. And I know that it's a little different from the other websites, other internet service websites that I've seen. Yeah, this was a very hard speech for me, because this is like a brand new idea, and I haven't really seen any services like this. It was kind of hard for me to put all the research together, but from what I found, and I know that it would make sense in the long run. I just think there's a lot of red tape behind getting the vendors to work with me and trying to figure out the infrastructure. Yeah, but sorry, you guys. I was so nervous, and I still am.
It's great.
Thank you. I just want everyone to know this is like my first time ever doing anything like this. So just let me have it. Just let me have it.
So you better be proud.
I am proud. I am. I like my design. I like my steps. I don't know if I stayed within the 10-minute window, but I really tried. So
is this the last slide or?
Yes, this is, sorry, the resources was the last slide. Yeah.
Great. So from my point of view, I really, really love the speech and the product. I told you also in our session 101, and actually your speech, it really engaged me from the very first second, because the way you explain the problem and the storytelling behind it, it's amazing. I think everyone here, we've been super engaged on your service and your solution. And that's why I was missing your speech in the slides, because you were giving us so much information while you were talking, and the slides didn't have that information. So I was like, the speech is great and the product is also, right? And I remember that you built the business model canvas that we shared with everything, revenue, sources, competitors, value proposition, like you had everything there. So the product is there, Pascal. It's everything there. So don't be afraid of adding those things into a presentation, because when the moment you talk about it, it's very engaging. So you don't want us to miss out just because we don't remember what you said, right? Because it's there, it's valuable. So put it there, put it all there. You have it already.
Yeah.
And what I was missing was more about the market research data to back up the problem that you were talking about, right? And I think you already did that. Yeah.
Yes, with the broadband and looking up, I know 2019, well, actually 2021, I know the administration signed like this new law, or it's providing new resources for broadband infrastructure. And I guess I could have shown like disparities of like certain areas in the states that have issues when it comes to internet services. That is something that I saw, but I didn't add to the slide. That was mine.
But just, I mean, because I remember we talked about qualitative data interviews, remember, with actually
Yeah.
potential customers to back up, and also quantitative. Like, I'm sure this is a problem, but where's the data to back up that problem, right? And I know that you did it. So I think it's more about putting it in the slides, because I know it's there. I've seen it with you. We've shared. And I mean, I really like the service, and I will only ask you to please finish and do it. Don't think it's not good enough. And don't just close the laptop today and say, okay, I finished the speech of internet hopping. Keep working on that, because I really think there's a market there.
Mhm.
And I really think you can help the community a lot. And as you say, it's something that you've suffered there. I'm sure that with all the data that you gather, you will find the same conclusions.
Yeah.
So be confident about what you're doing. And as I told you in our one-on-one session, I really think you're not aware of, you know, the power that you can have and you can prove, because we can all see it from here. So I'm only asking you to please keep working on that, because it's worth it.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, congratulations. You know, sometimes when people are nervous and they're doing a remote presentation, and I've seen this in pitches, they type it all out and read. You did not do that, no? And that took courage for you to do. So that is not nothing, and I want to point that out. You might have some notes that you're referring, but I know you were not reading. You know, I know that you were not reading. I think that there is we were talking about disparity earlier, but I see a gap in, you know, you were talking about how nervous you were and you were very apologetic as you were presenting, but that was not needed. And what we saw actually was a very strong and natural presenter with an awesome idea. So that didn't match up to me, why you were so apologetic. So you might have to challenge the self-narrative of yours, because you might think these things about you, but that is not how you are perceived by others. So I was, from the start, really engaged by you. I think you're a good storyteller. I like that. I mean, you're very natural. So I think it's easy for the audience to connect with you. And that can go a really long way when you're pitching to investors. I think, as I mentioned, I think it's a super cool product. It makes a lot of sense to me. The branding that you did around it, like the whole thing, the hop with the bunny, I mean, that was super well thought out. I mean, you definitely have some skills and like creative branding. No, that goes a long way. What I think you need now is someone like a CTO to really start, you know, adding to this product the technical pieces to it, right? What else did I want to say? Yeah, I was wondering, you know, this is a super cool project. It makes a lot of sense to me. And I feel like many people can identify with the story that you presented. And the question is like, who are your users? Is it younger folks who tend to hop around from different cities? Is it these sort of digital nomads? So this was one question I had. And I think, yeah, because I'm so like, I think it's a great idea. I'm like, is someone thought about this? Who are your competitors? Now, I know you briefly touched it, but yeah, I think like the market research is needed, as Romina had suggested, but overall, I think it was a very strong presentation. Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pascal, I don't even know why you were worried. It was so well done and it was so clear. And I've said we need to do one in Kenya because it would work here so well. Like people would jump on it in a hot second, I swear.
I plan on talking to you after class, like, hey, do you want to just
Yes.
stuff? Yeah.
Let's do some stuff. The thing that I did today that helped that I wasn't doing in the other classes, which I normally do when I'm presenting online, is that I turn off self-view. Because I realize when I'm presenting and I can see myself, it tends to make me feel very uncomfortable. So I tend to turn off self-view so I can concentrate on my presentation and what I want to say. So that really helps a lot. Because I know we're probably going to be doing this online pitches to investors and people for quite a while, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you got a great idea. You might consider, I mean, as a good next step to help build out your team and formulate everything a bit more, doing some sort of incubator, you know, where or like venture builder that can help with that. If you're serious about moving forward with that.
Romina told me that I should really consider this idea, and I think Deborah also told me there's like something out there in Spain, but it would be different. I mean, it would definitely be different in the States. I guess I should do some more research.
And we saw the competitor that Deborah sent, and it was crap. Come on, you can.
Yeah, their website could be updated a little bit, you know, but yeah, we can all be hoppers. It's like little hoppers, yeah.
I'm going to make you an origami. I'm going to make you an origami rabbit and send it to you.
Thank you.
Just make sure, Pascal, what we mentioned, that there are certain blacklists with providers, remember, with service providers, in which some customers are already, you know, banned from service providers. So just make sure that you consider that, because it could be a restriction when you switch to another service provider. So you might need to apply certain conditions according to specific scenarios. Okay, so last but not least, our public speaker.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Wait. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Ferro Fernandez. I would like to thank CodeOp team, especially Romina, who has been all the way through the beginning and who has helped me to put things a bit more clear in mind, and also to my colleagues with from whom I have learned a lot. So I would like to ask you, how many of you do you listen to the radio? I do listen to the radio sometimes, and a couple of months ago, while I was listening to the radio, it was this girl called Maria that she called the radio, and she was like asking the presenter, look, I need, could you recommend me a place or a site where I can take my mother, because she's like 63, she's just widow, and she's not especially looking for a new partner, but just someone to make a connection, or with common interest, or I don't know, to share common interest. So that is why when I came up with the idea of Only 60, which aims to be the place where the life for people over 60 begins again. And why is that? It will be a safe place for people to find new activities, events, and share common interests. But before we jump into the the journey of my product, let's go a bit to the problem. The exponential growth of people over 60 in Spain, even with COVID, is increasing every year. People over 60, sometimes they struggle to find meaningful connection. Sometimes they are also seen as have disabilities. They cannot continue with their life. It's like, okay, you're 60, 65, your life is over. None of that. COVID-19, it has also been a huge problem because, well, they were the population at risk, so they were struggling more to make the connections. Social isolation is also a huge problem here in Spain and also in Europe, which causes things like Alzheimer, dementia, and depression. And there is a high cost. According to the Journal of Alzheimer in Spain, it costs more than, well, this data is more than 20 million cost per year on Alzheimer. So as you can see, is a great problem. So what is our product about? That is how we came here. So our product, it will be a place to have events, activities, channels, and the agenda. One of my customers that I interviewed, Jordi, who is a COVID and a cancer survivor at 65, told me a very powerful lesson. You are not just in your heart or in your mind. You're young because of the things that you are aiming to learn every new year. Meaning that you don't need to study an engineer study. You don't need to go to very complex things. You can go to easy things as macrame, or as other of my users, customers, when I interview her, like at 61, Gabi, she just learned how to ride a horse, and she hadn't tried in her life ever. And actually, she doesn't like that much sports. Actually, she tried already with social media, and she was like, okay, I tried to download Instagram, TikTok. I tried 3 times. It was just not for me. So there is a gap here for people. Also, when they do join this kind of social media, sometimes they are seen as, they are kind of ridiculized by the other younger people in the social media. So how is Only 60 trying to solve this problem? Well, as I have already mentioned, in the main menu, we try to create channels with different activities. This is yet under research, which activities will and with which sources of interest we will put. It will be like, for instance, museums. For instance, it will also be food or literature, but it will be an ongoing project and very lively as our customer join the network and we can see better in which activities they are more interested about. Then we will also put an agenda where we will have the daily activities, both for the day and the month. The activities will be online and physical. For instance, there are a lot of museums that have put available their sources, and you can do virtual tours to the museums. It's so great. I mean, here in Madrid, I can go to the Prado, but for instance, Pascal or Naima or even Anna is more complicated for them. So for my customers, it's like you can put the activity there, and then we can put a chat for them to comment on how the activity was. Sorry, we will put the different links, and the people will be easily able to share for the content. The idea is to divide it depending on their interest as we carry on more surveys. So why now, you will ask? Well, the market size in Spain is there are more than 9 million people over 60. According to INEM, INE, which is National Spanish Institute of Statistics, over people over 60, the use ratio of the internet is 70%. Also, according to another study who I found from a PhD student, like she's focusing on people and on customers, senior customers, she previews that in 2030, the people over 60 only in Spain will be more than 40%. That represents almost half of the population. And among these people, there are like three personas. There are the ones that are like old, more traditional people who are like, okay, I'm not really open for new things. And they are also the forever young. These forever youngs are our customers, which will represent 85% of people. Why forever young? Because competitors. Okay, we have the traditional social media where you can go and find connections, but I've already said, like, people over 60, 65, they don't really like to go to this social media because they don't feel like, okay, I'm there, but I'm not really using it. The direct competitors, it will be, for instance, the Inserso. But the Inserso, Inserso is a place here in Spain, for those who don't know, that organizes travels for old people. But again, this is seen for old people, but we're targeting the forever young people. Also, the day centers will be competitors. Why? The day centers here in Spain is, well, now they are closed due to COVID, but you will go during the day and you will spend the day doing different activities. That also target old people, but we target the forever young people who are in their best moment of their life. Why? Because they have money, they have free time, and they have all the willing to start doing new things. I forgot to mention before, sorry, but I will mention it now because you are wondering how is she going to reach the customers? Okay, through Instagram accounts, we will target the young people so they can show the elders how to do it. Also with city halls, because they are very interested in taking care of their grandparents. Just to continue, the revenue model will be a freemium model. We will also need money from the investor. So if you like the idea, call me. And for instance, brands, because for brands, it will be a huge opportunity to know what this amount of people who are a very big size of the market, what they like. The revenue model is loading because we need to do more research. So don't be harsh on us. Just to finish, I will tell you the story of another customer, Elena. She widowed and she started doing plenty of activities. During COVID, she couldn't do any more activities. So her grandchildren, what she did was like, don't worry, grandma, I'm going to install you Zoom and I'm going to search for you an activity where you can continue. And now she's doing gymnastic through YouTube on her living room. So when there is a will, there is a thing. So our team is me, if you want to join me. And thank you very much. I'm over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
I kind of changed everything this afternoon because I presented to some colleagues and I changed everything. So I was like a bit nervous, sorry. I didn't have to time the practice once properly.
It's where there's a will, there's a way.
There is a will, there is a way. Yeah. I should have put it in a post-it, but I forgot to do it.
So from my side, I think it's super well written and spoken, as you can imagine. I think great tone, You were changing the tone in your speech. So that's actually quite engaging, as well as the storytelling. You were asking questions to the audience, which I think it's also perfect. I really like the slide because I remember we talked about data in our one-on-one, and you really took it into practice, and you pulled a lot of quantitative data from the market and market size that I saw. So you avoided this confirmation bias that we were talking back then. So I think it's great because you're really listening to what's the problem instead of pushing the product to the problem, right? The revenue model is quite diverse. I think it's good because otherwise it could be risky, as we mentioned, the use case of only depending on one revenue source. And the only thing that I missed was maybe to see more a bit of a user journey, because I think the product it's very good, but you can miss out on what are you actually selling, right? Because I know the product already, so I'm kind of biased, but I really think it would be nice to have some illustrations of the process. Like we were talking about Pedro, the user persona, talk about the user persona, right? Because there are plenty of use cases there. And the competitive advantage, right? Also. But I think overall it's great, and I think it was a great presentation. So thank you.
Sorry, I was noting down. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, sorry, I didn't have time for the user journey because, yeah, it was this afternoon when I was really seeing my user, like, because I had like, yeah. So yeah, I will thank you very much for the comment.
And the distribution channels, are you going to offer that with an app, with a web, for example?
Yeah, that is something that I came to my mind, and I don't know yet, because I think for that I didn't mention during my presentation, but for all people, an app is sometimes more difficult to manage because they don't see actually the app. So a web is better, but that can be for tablet use, because for the how do you say, the customers, other people that I interview, they use more the tablet than, even if it's like a rustic tablet, more than a computer. So it will have to be adapted for tablet use, which I don't know exactly which is the, yeah, I need to find more about it, find out more about it. Yeah.
Okay, congratulations, well done. There's no question, I was thinking about my mom who's over 60, and she's single, and she came to Spain. She wanted to meet people. She's like complaining that Barcelona is filled with too many young people, and I'm like, where do people my mom's age go to like meet people, and not just for like a romantic thing, but to feel connection. So immediately I identified with the problem, even though it wasn't directly for me, the product. I think there was a lot of energy showing through your presentation in the slides, the colors, as well as your tone. Despite that energy, it felt a little disconnected to me, like less, it felt a bit distant to me. And maybe that's because I couldn't see you present, right? I couldn't see your face. And so maybe that was the disconnect for me. That was just one thing that stood out. I agree. So knowing the sort of user journey, this would be helpful to see it through. And also, I like that you include that you've already thought of it as a freemium, using a freemium model. But then I'm curious to know, have you thought about any of these really key features that really differentiate you from other competitors, and just to get a better idea of how that would work? And what else? So when you mention, again, raising and you want funds, I want to know what you're going to do with those funds. What are your next steps, right? Like, so you've got this great idea, you've done some work around it. You want some money now? What are you going to do with the money? Yeah.
Yeah. So to differentiate, thank you for your questions. For differentiate from other competitors, well, and actually, I didn't mention it during the presentation. I think I skipped that part. But the idea is to have a survey when you enter the network, very easy one, no more than 5 questions, to see more or less the interest. So you can direct the customer through the more interest. I also didn't mention the moderators because at the beginning, I will need moderators, will be myself. And since I am mentoring people, I will ask them to help me in that process. And your second question, it was about raising money, okay, from investors. So I was thinking because the European Commission just announced that they are going to fund new projects and everything. So I was thinking like, okay, the European Union, they have a huge problem with older people because, well, I only mentioned the cost of Alzheimer in Spain. I didn't have more time how much it costs the social isolation in Europe. I know that in the UK they opened the Ministry of Solitude or something like that is called. I don't know exactly the name. A couple of years ago because they already identified that problem. So my guess was maybe to tackle them, like to ask for this public finance. And well, my aim is to start in doing the web page very easy because if I'm not because yeah, for asking for funds, you have to have a prototype at least. So it was like, okay, I will create the Instagram page. So the grandchildren and the daughters, sons, or everything, they will know that there is that product. And then yeah, the website. I was also thinking about paid news because in the mainstream newspaper in Spain, sometimes they show a new thing revolutionary, but I guess that is paid. Yeah, for sure. So you can also put it not as an ad, but as a news article talking about the benefits, well written and everything. So that is also a channel that I was thinking about to go there. But yeah, I forgot to mention, sorry.
No, super
And
good. I think there's a really nice market to tap into there. And there are, in fact, certainly there's public money, but there's also like VCs that focus solely on products for that age group, no? So I encourage you to continue building the idea.
okay, thank you.
Well done, Deborah. I knew you could do it. You were just struggling for nothing. You did such a good job. I loved it.
Yeah, it's because I already presented this project and yeah, it was not very well done. Okay, so they kill it immediately. And sometimes people are very like, yeah, but you cannot change old people. And I'm like, okay, I am not sure about it because
Anyways, girls, I'm super proud and I really liked, honestly, all of your projects. I really think you are targeting different industries completely, different services, and they all make sense to me. So, and especially because you come from different backgrounds, different experiences. Some of you already know about product management. Some of you it was the first experience. So I really feel the level was very high. So congratulations. And I really hope that you keep working on those projects.
Yes, we will, and we'll disturb you a lot.
At the end, we got it. I thought it wasn't going to be possible this last lesson, honestly.
Yeah, we took the time when Romina's internet took over from me and started trying to discuss how we could just like you know, change the class and like
Oh
not
yeah,
do this
we
thing.
did. We were like, yeah, let's add another class. I just don't want us to all leave yet. That's how I felt.
I know in some lectures you wanted to kill me. I could see that your faces like, oh my God, shut up. But at that moment, I was like, girls, if you want to grab a glass of water, it was my way of saying, take a break, you know?
I'm just gonna say something, and then I'll let the class have their final moments together. But first, big congratulations to you all. It's exciting for me to see you sort of at the top of the funnel and at the end of the funnel. No, we do the interviews together, and I hear about the ideas and the consideration of pursuing this, and it's exciting. And then I see the transformation, and often it's the case that I don't even recognize the student, right? Because I mean, in the end, when you're learning difficult things, it can be a transformative experience, you know, and it can help build confidence. It can hone, you know, as you hone in your logic, as you're speaking more, as you're building community with folks, you can feel the power of others. So it's thank you for first letting us support you in this journey, and then thank you for including me in this presentation. I've heard from Romina what a special group this is. It was the first time, in fact, that we decided to have one instructor teach the full course. You were part of an experiment. And the idea was that we wanted to see if it made a difference to work with one instructor throughout the 40-hour period. Because even if it's a short period, it's still an intense period. I mean, you know, time is transcended. Based on the projects, obviously, and the chemistry that I see amongst you all, I think that there were a lot of successes there. So a big congrats to Romina too, for building a beautiful group where relationships were built and also awesome products. I just want to say too that while we haven't interacted so much since the interview process, the bootcamp is ending, but I am still here, and I am available to you all, and I really mean that. Feel free to ping me whenever you have a question. If you want some advice about next steps, if you want to talk about fundraising. I've had, you know, the privilege of, it doesn't always feel like a privilege because it's very stressful, but I've had the opportunity to pitch to a lot of different investors and venture capitalists, blah, blah, blah. And I like talking about this. It's fun. It's something new for me. So I like sharing the knowledge. So if I can support you